And now our host, Stephen Lee Morris.
This week, we're joined by Alicia Laguna, who is the co-artistic director of Teatro Línea de Sombra in Mexico City. It's a theater company that has performed at Red Cat in Los Angeles. It's internationally renowned. And Alicia is here to discuss how she started the theater company with her partner pretty much on fumes and how it evolved into such an acclaimed company. Alicia is speaking with us from Mexico City, and she's talking in Spanish, and her words are interpreted for this episode by Olga Garay. So Alicia Laguna and Olga Garay, welcome to Animal Farm.
Hello, thank you. Thank you, Olga. Thank you, Stephen.
You've been in Los Angeles. Your company, the Teatro Línea de Sombra, has been in Los Angeles. You were here in 2018, I believe, for the Pacific Standard Festival, where you performed in Red Cat in the parking lot. But I'd like to go back in time, and can you tell us about the origins of this theater company? You are the co-artistic director with Jorge Vargas. Where you met and when you met, or why you decided to form this theater company to do this kind of work?
Nos conocemos en Monterrey, en el norte de México. Jorge vivía allá y yo empecé a estudiar en Monterrey y conocí el trabajo de Jorge Vargas y una pequeña compañía de teatro físico. Él viene del teatro físico y visual.
Okay. So it all began in Monterrey, which is a prominent city in the north of Mexico. She went there as a student, and she became acquainted with the work of Jorge Vargas, who had already started a small company that was based in physical and visual theater.
Mm-hmm.
Y en el año 93 comienza Jorge Vargas con 3, 4 artistas de Monterrey, con un grupo que inició trabajando como Teatro Línea de Sombra, con 2 piezas que realizan en Monterrey, para después mudarse a la Ciudad de México y finalmente encontrarnos en la Ciudad de México. Yo estaba en París por un año, regreso a la Ciudad de México y nos encontramos en la Ciudad de México.
Okay, so in 1993, Jorge, along with 3 or 4 other artists that were based in Monterrey, started Teatro Línea de Sombra with 2 pieces, 2 works that they devised. And they started, presenting the work around, and they moved to Mexico City from Monterrey. And after they had been there for about a little time, Alicia came back from a 1-year stay in Paris, and that's when they reconnected.
Así es. Y comienza una primera etapa de Teatro Línea de Sombra en México que va del año 96 hasta los 2006, 2007, de un trabajo más basado en dramaturgias, en textos de ficción, mayormente de autores europeos. Y es como para nosotros una primera etapa de trabajo que está también cruzada por un lenguaje del teatro físico, de lo visual, pero que todavía no entra en esta segunda parte de la que puedo hablar después del trabajo de la compañía.
Okay, so the first stage of Teatro de Sombra, Línea de Sombra, I could estimate to be from 1996 to 2006 or 7. We started exploring working with the dramaturgical texts, mainly of European writers, but still incorporating that whole physical and visual theater element that the company had been based on. Then I can tell you about our more recent work and how we have evolved.
Very good.
Y esta segunda etapa que comienza con una pieza que para nosotros es como la que precede Amarillo, que es un momento importante para Teatro Línea de Sombra, se llamaba La Oscura Raíz. La Oscura Raíz, que se había hecho una primera versión en Monterrey en aquellos años 93, cuando empieza Teatro Línea de Sombra, ya es una pieza de exploración de objetos, de espacio, de imagen, de trabajo con video, que viene a ser como el inicio de este laboratorio de creación que da por resultado esta segunda parte del trabajo de la compañía, que inicia con Amarillo y que va hasta este momento que estamos viviendo en el 2021.
Okay, so the next phase of our work, which I think is still, very much in place right now, started with a piece called La Oscura Raíz, which translates into the dark roots, which actually was mounted in Monterrey in the early days, but then we brought it back, and it started exploring our whole incorporation of objects and images and videos, and really was the antecedent or the predecessor to Amarillo, which is probably the piece that launched us into I'm adding this, that launched us into an international career. Okay. I know that Amarillo was at the Red Cat in 2011 during the Radar LA Festival, the first Radar LA Festival, and I had seen it and recommended it at Miami's International Hispanic Theater Festival a couple of years earlier. So I had seen the work, fell in love with it, and was recommended that it be included in Radar LA. So
Could you give us a brief
a little editorial?
No. Sort of just a description of what Amarillo was. What is because it has a storyline that's quite vivid. And it seems like you're working with physical theater from the beginning. Those are the roots, and yet you're using texts from, as you say, from mostly European writers. And then you do. This is the story of somebody who came from Mexico into Amarillo, Texas, and disappeared en route. Is that correct? So there's almost a dreamlike scenario to it. I was wondering if you could describe that in ways that I can't.
Sí, Amarillo es para nosotros el primer momento en donde entramos a partir de un trabajo con la realidad que en ese momento, 2009 en México, 2008, 2009, empieza a haber una problemática mucho más visible, o sea, hace más visible el problema de la migración, y nos centramos en una idea fundamental, en una imagen fundamental de el migrante, el hombre perdido en el desierto, desorientado en el desierto. Y partimos de investigación en ese momento en la red, porque no era un trabajo de campo, después viene un trabajo de campo, de cómo los migrantes, al estar en el desierto deshidratados, se pierden la ubicación, el norte y dónde están. Y es a partir de esa imagen que resulta todo un laboratorio de investigación y de práctica con los performers para esta pieza que termina siendo Amarillo después de un proceso largo de trabajo, ¿no?
Okay, wait, hold on a second.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, so with Amarillo, it's the first time that we definitively started including real life occurrences into our work. And this was created in 2008, 2009, when the whole issue of immigration from Mexico to the United States was having national repercussions. There was a lot of debate of why it was happening, how could it be addressed, etc. And the image that we landed on after we did some field work with actual immigrants, etc., was the whole notion of a man being in the desert, dehydrated, what that does in terms of your mental state, almost a hallucinatory experience that that became the metaphor that became Amarillo.
Mhm.
Exactly, Olga.
So this is now tilting into, it seems, the work of the company with Amarillo, and maybe it had been foreshadowed before, but now it's tilting more and more conspicuously into social justice. And that's, you've even, your theater now is a kind of institute. It comes with classes, and I was wondering if you could talk about that mission. Is that mission new? And is that mission something that evolved?
Al mismo tiempo que creamos y que iniciamos una compañía de creación, de creación de piezas artísticas, escénicas, hay un trabajo paralelo de formación, de pensamiento, de reflexión, y por otro lado también un festival internacional de difusión que mayormente lo trabajo yo, que se llama Transversales. Entonces, el proyecto de Teatro Línea de Sombra no es solo un proyecto de creación artística, sino que tiene estas tres líneas que siempre van andando y que ahora cada vez más están unidas y entrelazadas. Al momento yo puedo decir que una y la otra no están separadas. El trabajo de investigación con la creación, con la difusión, ¿no? Pero es un trabajo que va paralelo desde el principio. Son tres patas de una mesa. Falta la cuarta, pero yo creo ya no.
Okay. So ever since really the beginning, we have worked along three parallel tracks, right? So there's Teatro Línea de Sombra, which is the creation component, the production arm. But we've also always had a parallel concentration on research and scholarship and teaching and learning. And then finally, we have had the diffusion of the work through a festival that is an international festival called Transversals, I think. I don't know if that's a word in English.
Yeah.
It is. So we have always been very clear that these three primary focuses of the company are interrelated and feed on each other and are critical to the whole oeuvre that we put out.
What kind of support are you finding in Mexico from both the national government and perhaps from even local municipalities within Mexico City? And has the support been a constant, or has it waived? And how do you keep yourselves going?
Los primeros 12 años de la compañía, 14, sí, 14, 12 años de la compañía, ha sido por proyecto. Encontrar a base de convocatorias. México funciona con una secretaría, un ministerio de cultura y con entidades diversas como Bellas Artes, la universidad, el Centro Helénico, donde uno puede aspirar a tener recursos para proyectos. Entonces, la primera parte fue para proyectos específicos. Y después viene una etapa que hasta ahora es vigente en México, lo cual aplaudimos todas las compañías y artistas que sobreviva y la hemos defendido mucho, que es un programa para compañías estables profesionales por año y que de ser de 2 años ha pasado a 3 años continuos. Es en el que estamos nosotros ahora mismo, parte de el FONCA, que ya ahora se llama de otra forma, pero no voy a tratar de decir el nombre, y formamos, porque es muy largo, parte de ese programa en nuestros últimos 12 años, 10 años, y gracias a eso podemos hacer una multiplicación de recursos y de gestión, que mayormente la hago yo con ayuda del equipo de la compañía, hacia el exterior, internacionalmente y local.
Okay, so initially, I would say for the first 12 to 14 years that the company was in existence, we were basically project-based. We had to go out and find funding support for each one of our projects. And that was just the way things were in Mexico. During the last 12 years, now there is an opportunity in Mexico to apply for 3 years of general operating support that is available to companies that are stable or professional, you know, have exhibited a track record of excellence. And we find ourselves to be now in that position, which is we have really fought very long and hard to maintain that level of commitment from the federal government in Mexico. What happens, and I'm pretty much in charge, meaning her, I'm pretty much in charge of this whole effort of fundraising, et cetera. But what it means is that it has given us the stability and flexibility to then go out into the international arena and into other parts of Mexico to maximize and leverage that initial funding support. And it has been invaluable.
Ahora, México es un país en donde cada 6 años que cambiamos de presidente y ahora de sistema de gobierno, podemos decir, pues empiezan a haber destrucción de lo anterior, echar abajo lo anterior para volver a empezar de nuevo, y eso es lo que sucede cada 6 años. Este sexenio que vamos en la mitad ha sido muy duro, además de la pandemia, en que hay una línea de pensamiento de gobierno que está permeando las artes contemporáneas, las artes escénicas, y que ahí es donde hay que defender y un peligro de inestabilidad muy fuerte para compañías que estamos en un trabajo como el nuestro, de investigación, de escena contemporánea, de lenguajes, etcétera. Es lo que está pasando en este momento, porque hay una línea muy clara del gobierno hacia, cosa que no está mal, pero arte comunitario, comunidades, pueblos originarios, indígenas, todo en la inclusión, que nadie habla que esté mal, pero nos empieza a excluir otros lenguajes y otras posibilidades.
Okay, so however, having just said that, Mexico's government leadership changes every 6 years. And with that, and that happens in the United States as well, Alicia. So, I mean, you're preaching to the choir. Every 6 years, there's a change, of course, in the presidency. And along with that comes a philosophical and political change in the system as a whole. And so right now, the government, aside from the fact that it has been an extremely difficult year, not only because of the pandemic, but the economic fallout of that, the current government, the philosophy or the policies of the federal government are prioritizing community-based work, work in indigenous communities, and there's nothing wrong with that. And it's been a long time coming. I'm not saying that that's not a really important kind of road to take and prioritization to make. However, it does leave out other forms of expression and other artistic genres and ways of working. So we're in the middle of the 6-year period. So we have, had to really prioritize from our perspective, keeping the support system available to as broad a swath of organizations and artistic expression as possible.
And the last thing about this, se terminaron las tours internacionales, entonces no hay manera de ingresar fondos a la compañía por medio del trabajo. Está muy bien, estamos en una gran etapa de investigación, de pensamiento, de reflexión, pero sin poder, sin poder obtener nada a cambio económicamente del trabajo que se hace.
Claro.
Como muchas compañías.
Claro. So, of course, as has happened the world over, international tours, which were a huge source of earned revenue, have dried up, which means that a pillar of their economic, model has just fell apart. This has happened, of course, to many, many companies, but it has also opened up an avenue, a path for us to increase the investigative component of our work and the reflection and the search. And so, but that doesn't bring in any money. And so it's a difficult situation, although at the same time, it is bringing intellectual resources to the front, which sometimes when you're on an international touring schedule, all you do is move. So
Yeah.
this period has also been, advantageous because of that ability to really focus on our work.
I have
I'm adding some context.
Yes, of course. No,
that's
but
fine.
it's okay. It's
two kind of closing questions. One is a little bit rude, so I'll ask you to forgive me ahead of time. But are the actors in your company able to make a living from their compensation in the company, or do they have to work other jobs in order to put bread on the table? That's one question. So that's a huge issue here in Los Angeles.
Sí, nuestros actores base, por ejemplo, de Amarillo, han podido vivir de las giras y de Amarillo en otros años. Ahora no. Cada proyecto tiene diferentes equipos y los proyectos pagan esos equipos de trabajo. Pero pienso que la compañía misma por el trabajo de investigación, una metodología de creación, podemos hablar, entre paréntesis, de una metodología, de un procedimiento de creación, ha logrado que nuestros propios performers y artistas desarrollen su trabajo individual. Por poner un ejemplo, Raúl, el actor de Amarillo, ahora se dedica completamente al trabajo de video, programación, da talleres, cursos dentro de la compañía, fuera de la compañía, dirección técnica. O sea, hay toda una red compleja en nuestros actores que viene de esto que han trabajado con nosotros y que cada uno ha desarrollado, sea en la formación o sea como performers enseñando. Entonces, eso les permite vivir.
Okay, so obviously, prior to the pandemic, when we were touring, you know, the company members were paid, you know, for their work. Although each project has a different set of artists, it's not an ensemble per se. It's per project. But interestingly, the ability to help develop the methodology that is the company has given a skill set to each of these individuals that they didn't possess before, and that has allowed them to forge new roles for themselves. So as artists or as teachers or professors or whatever. So for example, Raúl, who was the principal in Amarillo, has really developed a whole sideline of video production and TA and both within the company and outside of the company. So he has founded a whole, you know, a whole other level of work that is giving him resources that now the company is not in a position to give him.
Yes.
Thank you. No, that's very clear. Final question. What do you see for the company in the next 12 months?
Okay. It's interesting because, okay, tenemos una pieza visual que realizamos el año pasado para el Festival Cervantino, Danzantes del Alba, que originalmente era para espacio público, para calle, y que tuvo que ser digital. Ese ahora es una pieza visual específicamente que puede pasarse digitalmente y que va a tener este año con la Universidad de México un estreno en vivo presencial en final de año. Y estamos en una etapa de investigación para una nueva pieza de creación con un periodo de investigación bastante profundo y largo que tiene que ver con el periodismo y el arte. Estamos trabajando con un periodista de investigación específicamente sobre un espacio en México que es el estado de Tamaulipas. Esta nueva creación se llama Zona Clausurada y tiene un cruce muy fuerte entre el periodismo de investigación y los trabajos de periodistas sobre la violencia en México y el arte. Y además, proyectos paralelos. Yo trabajo específicamente ahora con una artista uruguaya que se llama Tamara Cubas, con la que he trabajado a partir de transversales, en una instalación, en una pieza de largo alcance, en donde Teatro Línea de Sombra produce parte de esto, pero o sea, tenemos diversos proyectos al mismo tiempo, y no solo yo o Jorge o la base de la compañía, sino Raúl desarrolla un proyecto, otra performer, Suad, la bailarina, desarrolla otro proyecto, y los recursos de la compañía se expanden, digamos, se reparten entre todos esos proyectos pequeñas partes. Eso es lo que estamos ahora intentando en este próximo año.
So we actually have quite a number of projects in the works for this coming year. We developed a virtual piece called for the Cervantino Festival, which I would say is one of the top 3 international festivals in Latin America. And it's called Danzantes del Alba, the Dancers of Alba. And I actually saw the piece. I saw it, and it's beautiful. It really investigates traditional indigenous dance forms. It was filmed outside with, ¿cómo se llama? Volantes, se llaman los
danzante, el personaje se llama el loco de la danza.
So
el traje.
They go on these poles and they dance.
Sí.
They go on these poles and they have all of these ribbons, and it's, you know, ¿desde cuándo existe ese tipo de baile? Desde hace...
Es un personaje de los festivales, de los carnavales tradicionales en México. En todos los carnavales hay un personaje así.
Okay, so this is a very typical thing that you would see in community festivals throughout Mexico. So this has been around for probably hundreds of years. Mm-hmm. And it's really rooted in that whole indigenous belief system. And so later this year, the University of Mexico, UNAM, is going to be actually presenting the work in person, which is extraordinary because, you know, so far, because of the pandemic, we've only been able to show it digitally. At the same time, we are in a very deep investigative period, developing a piece that looks at journalism, specifically journalism having to do with violence, the violence that has erupted around Mexico for the last number of years, and how that intersects with art. And so we're deep into that, and that will eventually result in a piece. Personally, I've been working with a very well-regarded contemporary artist named Tamara Cuba, who is based in Paraguay. And
Uruguay.
Uruguay.
Uruguay, yeah.
Uruguay, sorry. Uruguay. And I met her through the festival that we started, the Transnational Festival, Transversales. And I have been doing my own work with Tamara over a period of years now, and so that continues. And similarly, other members of the company have their own projects that they're developing, and so it's a very fertile period. No money, but a very fertile period.
Yes, no money.
Alicia Laguna and Olga Garay, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Steven. Thank you, Olga. Thank you.
Next week, we're joined by Los Angeles-based playwright Angela Davis. Angela works for the Road Theatre Company and Antaeus Company. She also works as a Superior Court judge for the County of Los Angeles in the Family Law Division. So next week, Angela will be continuing a discussion we had 2 weeks ago with Paul Spera about the intersection of theater and the law.